this is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com. I got a question through customer support, and what it was what to do if you have wrist pain in the front rack, front squat position or clean. So what you can end up doing, there's a number of exercises that you can do that'll end up decreasing the stress on your wrists and decrease the pain in your wrists. You can end up doing them prior to the front squat exercise, and I'll get Orsi to go through them. So the first one ends up being the finger rotation. So you're just interlocking the fingers and then you're just rotating the wrists about 10 times in one direction. So we can go like counterclockwise. And then you can end up going the opposite direction. So we end up going clockwise, depending on how you're looking at the wrists. So we're just kind of loosening up the wrists, working on the mobility of the wrist with the finger rotations. And after the finger rotations, you can end up following up with the wrist rotations. So just rotating the wrists in one direction. So once again, going through about 10 times. And then going in the opposite direction with the wrists. And then we're going to follow that up with like the wrist, like self-massage of the forearm. So we're looking specifically at the flexors. So we're putting our thumb in our forearm. And then what I end up doing is just rubbing up and down in the forearm in order to kind of loosen up or self-massage that muscle. And I'll just end up moving up and down the muscle. So work from side. And I'll end up doing for about 30 seconds to a minute. I'm not trying to bruise the muscle, I'm just trying to loosen up that forearm and provide like a self-massage in that forearm. So it'll loosen up and I'll get more range in that wrist, and it'll put less stress on that wrist. The next thing I want to do is I want to stretch out those wrist forearms, especially the flexors. So starting off with the arm straight and then just extending it back. So arm straight just below the shoulder, extending the wrist back, and we're looking at a light stretch in the forearm or in the biceps. And how long I end up holding those, I look at holding for about 20 seconds and then looking at twice on each side, and I'm looking for a light stretch. I'm not trying to rip apart the muscle. After going straight arm, I'm going to end up bending the elbow and I'm going to bring the wrist back. And with that one, it ends up targeting the wrist flexors a lot more. It tends to be not as intensive as the arm being straight, but it ends up targeting the wrist flexors in a different way. And same thing, just like with the straight arm, I'm looking at twice. I end up holding for about 20 seconds. And then the last exercise that I end up doing would be a contract relax of the triceps. And this depends on the individual. Like Orsi ends up having really good range of motion. So if I'm in that front rack position, bring the elbows up, Orsi ends up having really good range of motion. And with myself, I can bring it to about here, and then I need to compensate in some way in my back or my thoracic spine. So if I come up, so we can take a look at the height of the elbows. If I bring the elbow up, I bring the opposite hand here, and then I'm pushing down into my hand for about 5 seconds. I'm going to relax, and then I move up to that point where I have resistance from the muscle, and then I'm going to push down again. And then moving back up. And then I can end up looking, I end up having, I've already kind of gained some more range of motion already in that tricep or shoulder. And all I'm doing is just pressing down, not as hard as I can, but a good like 25%, and resisting with the opposite hand, 5 seconds, resetting and coming back up. So there you go. If you end up having wrist pain when it comes to the front squat position or the clean position, look at going through those exercises. Finger rotations, followed by wrist rotations, followed by forearm self-massage, followed by straight arm, wrist flexor stretch, bent elbow, wrist flexor stretch, and then ending up with that tricep contract relax. So there you go. This is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com. Swing by exercisesforinjuries.com. Enter in your injury or pain. There's a good chance that I have an article, video, or interview that'll help you overcome your injury or pain. Secondly, if you're watching this on YouTube, head up above, hit subscribe. What that'll do is every couple days you'll end up getting a video like this where I talk about overcoming injury and pain. Thirdly, head down below, hit like, leave me a question or comment. So this is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com saying take care.